Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mindgasms. So, I'm going to read chapter 26 of my novel called The Cold Darkness of the Night, which is about a man who left a life of crime as basically a mob or a gang enforcer when his wife gets pregnant with their daughter. But then later on, he gets pulled back into that world when his wife gets pregnant, or after their daughter gets kidnapped, and then he pretty quickly slips right back into his old violent ways. So, anyway, this is chapter 26 of The Cold Darkness of the Night. Bill circled his black Chevelle around the block, making his way toward the far end of the alley. The car's air conditioning shot a cool breeze across his skin. It felt rejuvenating after the blistering hot house he had just left. Judging from its state, it probably didn't have an air conditioner. No fans were around either. Sunlight flooded through the windows, heating it to searing temperatures. The hitman parked his vehicle lengthwise in front of the end of the path, blocking any entrance or exit. Curious onlookers would only interfere, and if they had a problem with him, he would send them away. Bill kept an eye out for the target. He could easily deal with any prying eyes, and it was unlikely that any enemies would attack. However, years of experience made the criminal maintain vigilant wariness. After a minute or so, he noticed a figure darting from someone's driveway in the alley. He was about to step out of the car to prevent their suspect from escaping, but discovered that this was unnecessary. Brian burst from the backyard of the same driveway, throwing open the tall, dark brown wooden gate as he descended upon the person. He stepped off overgrown grass and onto weather-beaten pavement, a fraction of a second behind the swiftly moving, frightened man. The skinny man was almost as tall as Brian. His matted, curly black hair moved around wildly as he sprinted. Shining in the sunlight, his almond skin contrasted with his hair. He wore a baggy, faded black AC/DC t-shirt and wrinkly gray sweatpants that were too long and too big. His feet were stuffed into grizzled white runners with blue stripes. The gargantuan killer got close enough to shove his mark toward a decrepit electric transformer. He was launched headfirst into dark green metal. A dull, deafening sound emanated from it with a lingering echo. A colossal red welt swelled above the man's left eye. Brian loomed over his disoriented prey, exuding barely bottled, catastrophic rage. It boiled at the surface, ready to explode in a volcanic eruption of suffering. He almost set himself loose on the vulnerable man. The criminal was like a provoked bull. He was about to charge and rip his quarry to shreds, seeing nothing but white-hot fury and succumbing to ferocious urges. The beast would gorge his victim, sinking sharp horns into him like a polished knife cutting through warm butter. He would move with such bellicose speed that his attacks could not be stopped. The victim might be tackled, kicked, or stomped on by the behemoth. The injured man sat crumpled against the transformer in the dust and rocks. He was in shock, rocking slowly back and forth. Desperately clutching his head, he tentatively felt around it with his fingertips. He inhaled harshly and hissed, whispering gibberish in reaction to the sharp stinging sensation. Assessing his wounds, he looked up at Brian. The assassin's fists were clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His veins were popping out of his forearms. Fiery glow emanated from the depths of his pupils, conveying the barely contained conflagration of carnage. The killer's gaze was malevolent. Brian looked like a rabid dog, about to leap into a fatal attack. "Don't play with me, motherfucker," he warned in his cool and authoritative tone, kneeling down to his victim. "If you run again, I'm going to go as easy on you as I will this time." Brian grabbed clumps of hair and yanked the criminal's head up to face him. "Understand?" he bellowed jarringly. The battered man shouted in protest. His hair was being pulled so aggressively that he felt the skin stretching on his scalp. His locks fought to remain attached to his head. Ah, shit, man. Yeah, I get it. Why did you run, Chuck? Brian had calmed down. The drug dealer gasped in exasperation. Are you kidding me, man? Everyone knows your car. I'm practicing self-preservation here. The huge killer tilted his head to one side and frowned, a condescending expression forming on his face. The only reason I hurt you was because you tried to get away, dumbass, he said as if this was common sense, letting go of the man as he spoke. He patted his head, like a parent telling a child to look both ways before crossing the street. Yeah, Chuck reluctantly agreed, scowling. But you know better than I do that you always beat the shit out of people to get what you want. His voice became more accusatory. If I'm not around, I can't be hurt by you or Bill. Brian punched the broken man in his left eye. I don't appreciate your tone. Show some respect, he cautioned. You are right, though. I don't have a problem with hurting people. Chuck's head began slumping toward his left shoulder. His vision was hazy and he felt unsteady. The fist hitting his face made him feel like he had gotten struck with a baseball bat. The looming killer snatched the drooping head of his wounded prey and made eye contact. His speech was clear, concise, and venomous. But here's how your logic is flawed. If you're so concerned with saving yourself, why did you leave your girlfriend there to deal with us? Did you just leave her there to stall us while you ran away like a pussy? You don't care about her? Yeah, Chuck admitted without shame. Listen, I don't give a fuck about that bitch. She's only temporary, and she does what I tell her to, nigga. You know what I'm talking about. He gained his confidence too quickly, speaking with power. Brian reacted to this misguided vigor by violently shoving the drug dealer's head into the transformer, causing a resounding ring. You better check yourself, motherfucker, he threatened, acrimony flowing into his words. He was a dark python, poised to strike and engulf his prey. Don't forget who's in control of this situation. You ought to be fucking ashamed of yourself. That's not how you treat women. Don't make me give you a lesson in respect. The mammoth attackers struck him in the solar plexus with an uppercut, precision and force in the blow. The punch made a strident thud. Nothing sounds the same as a blunt object connecting with living flesh. This is your last warning. Chuck balked after his abuse. Fuck! Okay, man, I get it! His aplomb was almost drained. It was being replaced with frightened submission. Don't I deserve some respect too, or leniency? He pleaded. I'm moving up in the world, so I thought maybe you could cut me some slack. I don't go easy on anyone, retard, Brian said. I do my job, no matter who I'm doing it to. People listen better when they fear me and know that I wouldn't hesitate to crush them like the repulsive cockroaches they are. He stared into Chuck's eyes with convicted disgust. Sunlight reflected off of his pupils, making them shine with an ethereal, sinister glow. Make no mistake, I don't give a shit about you transitioning away from small-time heroin dealer to a slightly more influential one. You're just climbing the ladder of scumbags. I'm here to get information. I don't care how I get it. You shouldn't have run, bitch. We could have had a conversation like adults, but now look what you're making me do. Behave like a two-faced fucking rat trying to run away with the cheese. I'm gonna treat you like one. All right, man, the man conceded, raising his hands in surrender. No more bullshit. What do you want to know? That's the spirit, nigga, Brian replied, patting Chuck patronizingly on the left cheek. Isn't doing what I say just so much easier than being an asshole? He slipped back into his menacing persona. His .357 Magnum materialized in his right hand, and he pugnaciously shoved it into his devastated victim's forehead. His face was instantly within millimeters of him. I could end your miserable excuse for a life right here, right now, and no one would say a goddamn thing. Chuck cringed, cold metal boring into his skull. All pretense of confidence had vanished. He was putty in the man's hands, a slave to his will. His only concern was survival. Brian sputtered with barely contained rage, injecting more pressure into the gun he held against the battered man's clammy skin with each sentence. In his mind, the creature touching his gun became less like a human being, and more like a ravenous wild animal that needed to be put down. It would be over in a millisecond. Your body wouldn't even have a chance to realize it's in pain before you die. And if some nosy motherfucker tried to make it their business, they'd be put in their place. But that probably wouldn't even happen, because you know as well as I do that people know who Marcel is around here. And on the off chance that some pig left his nest of shit long enough to get suspicious and think he has a say about the way things go down in this neighborhood, I'd blow that motherfucker's house down, because I'm a wolf, bitch. Fuck, man, please, the drug dealer pleaded pitifully, sniveling in desolation. He slumped down further and further as Brian sent pulsating waves of force into his victim's forehead through his gun. He was shoved almost to the ground. The assassin was hunched over him, his menacing face encompassing the man's entire world. Please don't kill me, he desperately begged. Just tell me what you want to know. I'll tell you whatever you want to hear, man. The paralyzing terror within his eyes revealed how deeply into his mind it had burrowed. This snapped Brian out of his trance of wrath. He relaxed some of the pressure on the weapon and backed off of Chuck. The few millimeters between them multiplied into almost a foot, but he remained close enough to keep his gun against the drug dealer's forehead. Okay, he said with tranquility, his animosity less apparent. Let's get down to business. A little girl was kidnapped recently. Did you hear about it? He shoved his magnum against the warm, slippery flesh. The criminal recoiled, then thought for a moment before responding. No, I didn't hear anything about that. Determination fought through his weak and powerless voice. You don't know anything about that, or even know anyone who heard anything about it? Brian shoved the gun into Chuck's forehead again. His prey balked, but his conviction remained in spite of his fear. No, man, I promise you, I haven't heard anything, and I don't know anyone who has. I can check for you, though, ask around and stuff. With lightning-fast prowess, Brian got right up in Chuck's face once more. His penetrating eyes bore the inferno of carnage within him. You fucking better. Those motherfuckers pissed off the wrong people, and they're going to suffer for it. All right. So, that is chapter 26 about my novel called The Cold Darkness of the Night. And I hope you enjoyed that chapter. Hope you enjoy the other chapters as well. I'll add the link for the playlist with all of the chapters that I've read so far here on my YouTube channel to the description of this video, as I always do. And I will also add the link for all the chapters of my novel that I've published so far on my blog. And there are way more on there than there are on here. So, and like I always say, thanks to those of you who subscribe to my channel, click the like button on this video, click that bell to be notified when I release new videos. Got a lot more coming up about various different topics, including more novel chapters and more in different series that I'm doing. And thanks especially to those of you who give me money on Patreon. I greatly appreciate that, and it means a lot to me. And I'll add the description or the link for that to the description of this video, as I always do as well. And like I always say, I love you all. Keep being the tiny beam of light that shines through the almost impenetrable darkness in the universe. And most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all, and groove is in the heart. All right, so keep spreading mindgasms, love, funk, and groove everywhere, and awesome literature about violent killers and all sorts of other fascinating and excellent topics. And adios until next time.